Danielle Partis.
Jordan Midler.
How excited are you? Crazy Taxi's back. Come on.
Yeah, Crazy Taxi is back is the thought that I had yesterday at about midday.
Yep. We were so excited for this. We're desperate to get this so we could start playing it. This is Taxi Chaos for PS4, Switch. Might be on it's on Xbox as well.
It is, yeah.
So you've played more of this than I have. You tell us how you're feeling about it, because you're a Crazy Taxi stan. I'll just play some of it here.
I am. I'm a huge Crazy Taxi stan to a point where I literally subscribe to PlayStation Now just so I can boot up Crazy Taxi at ease whenever I want. I'm a big fan of it.
PS3 version of Crazy Taxi is quite good, to be fair.
It is. It is. So when I saw this and I saw it was quite obviously a homage to Crazy Taxi, I got super excited, and we reached out and to get copies of this, and I was stoked. Like, I was really looking forward to it, and then I played it.
Yep.
I opened the video game and I played it, and well, what do you think, Jordan? What do you think about Taxi Chaos?
I think that it is quite bad, quite devoid of the personality that made Crazy Taxi really good, and I wonder if a Crazy Taxi game in Year of Our Lord can really be £35.
Yeah.
But outside of that, the driving's okay. Like, the braking is... I don't love the braking. The amount of times that I've just overshot where you have to stop and have to awkwardly kind of reverse back into place is high, but you're playing it on the Switch, aren't you? This is the PS4 version running on the PS5.
Yeah, and I came to the same conclusion as you, that I don't think the driving is bad at all. Like, it felt immediately very tight, and it's not as chaotic. It actually feels a lot tighter than Crazy Taxi does.
Yeah.
I think the controls are mapped a lot easier. But that is the only positive thing I could bring myself to say about it. Like, when I saw the art style, it kind of it looks like Fortnite. Like, someone who's put Crazy Taxi in Fortnite, and I see the appeal of that, because it's obviously relying on quite an old retro trope and like bringing it to new players. So if it has a familiar kind of style, it's going to make people look at it. But I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think the look does much for it. I honestly wish it had went harder into kind of like the look of the era, the kind of like Dreamcast era, and I think that would have made it stand out a bit more. As it stands, like, it's just, there's nothing about it. And then obviously a big part of Crazy Taxi is the music, and they don't have the Offspring. They even joke about in their press release not having the Offspring, but like there's not even lyrical music. It's just like kind of generic ska noises happening in the background.
Yeah, they're even like the instrumental, there's no kind of differentiation between like whether you're in the menu or whether you're like speeding around the city. And I think there was so much potential here to have a lot of the personality in the game, and they've just kind of missed the boat.
The world is like an approximation of New York City, and okay, so here, 8,000, what a legend, 3 stars. You've got your arcade mode, which is pretty traditional Crazy Taxi, pro mode, which doesn't tell you where to go, and then a free roam for some ungodly reason. As if anyone would want to like free roam this. Does this look like a mobile game interface to you? Because it does to me.
It does, yeah. It reminds me a little bit of the Fortnite interface, and it does look like a mobile game.
If I'm wanting a new car,
right? Treat yourself. I did play the free mode actually, because I just kind of wanted to drive around and like get a feel for the city, because you have to do that if you're going to play pro mode. But what I found is that there's not really like any huge differentiation or like observable landmarks anywhere.
Yeah.
So like it's very difficult to kind of learn the map.
I think it's because it's so flat. Like in Crazy Taxi, you've obviously it's got quite a lot of elevation in the terrain, so you can see places from like quite far away. Whereas here, it's all blocked off by buildings, so it's kind of hard to. Jesus Christ, it's kind of hard to actually get your bearings.
Yeah.
There is some notion of stop. Oh my god, this taxi is significantly worse than the last one. There's some notion of like special characters you can pick up that have like special missions and stuff, but I've not really seen those. you can they have like there's like conversations with the passengers and stuff, but see that one about aliens walk among us, I've heard that 5 times and I've played the game for about 20 minutes. Like it's
Yeah, I noticed as well they've kind of included these kind of like millennial stereotype tropes that got a bit tired like 10 years ago, like the dialogue about like, oh, I get the subway because it's underground and I liked the city before it was cool and stuff like that. It's like, is this like 2009?
It's
is
weird.
This a meme?
It reminds me of the attitude of, do you remember the PlayStation 3 game Pain, where
Yeah.
you would like twat a guy towards a big construction site and he would like break things? It has that kind of like strange. Oh, speaking of Fortnite, so
there we go.
Off and play about Fortnite. The attitude's all wrong, but like the act of just picking people up and like driving them to a place is still, there's like a nugget of fun, which is probably the most disappointing thing because everything around it is just so kind of lackluster.
Yeah, it's just.
Oh my god, I'm in the right bit.
It's kind of soulless. It's weird because the sad kind of thing for me is that this game is very clearly inspired and built with Crazy Taxi in mind. Like you've got the arrow that is very similar. You've got the pulsating green markers, and like even like when the screen kind of narrows a bit when you pick up a passenger, that's all like very clearly inspired, and it's a very passionate attempt at a homage. But it's like a toddler has drawn you a picture, like a scribble, and you go, oh, that's lovely, and then as soon as they're out of the room you like throw it away after sticking it on the fridge. Like it's clearly, the people that have made it clearly like Crazy Taxi, but everything that they've tried to capture has just fallen flat for me.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost like, it's like Crazy Taxi as described by someone who didn't really understand what made the first one so like the original so good. It's just, I don't get it. I'll jump into the free roam mode for a bit just to see what the landmass is like. There's a weird there's a trophy for getting to the highest point in the map, and God only knows what that is.
I did try to do that because like what they've done, which I quite like, is they've added the jump function, and I was like jumping about and I was like, why the fuck have they added that? What does it add? But there's like little ramps and little areas where you can jump across rooftops and like take shortcuts, which I think is really cool. So I drove around, but I couldn't tell you where any of them are because I can't differentiate any of the map. But I did notice one or two. I wish that kind of thing was
better communicated. Like it's just like here's one here. But great.
Almost. See, I like that kind of stuff because it adds like an element of, you know, it's clearly for the pro mode when you're like trying to figure out how to get around easier. And I like that, but yeah, there's no idea.
I feel like the routes should be more explicit about telling you to go these ways, because like Mario Kart's really good about teasing you with a shortcut that you'll be like, okay, next time I come round I'll go that way, whereas this is just kind of like, is the city actually like this big?
It's stuff you kind of notice and you're like, oh, I can see that, but you're not actively looking for it. And I think like when you're driving, you can't adjust the camera to look up and down to see different paths that you might take. So it's kind of awkward to kind of look around when you're on the move.
And there's no parts, like obviously there's loads of big hills in Crazy Taxi where you're just like, you look forward to going down that bit because it's always like a bit fun and you can just launch yourself, whereas everything's pure flatland. New York, obviously there is like the association of like New York taxis as like, it makes sense to set a Crazy Taxi game here, but landmass wise I'm not really feeling it.
I love that really non-obvious boundary there. That was like Spider-Man vibes.
Bet you can get up there. Also, we should talk about the price for this because they want £35 for this game.
Yeah, and that, you know what? Like on the Switch, I'm not even like surprised because that just makes sense to me because all of Switch games do that. But like, this one is just, it boggles me. Because like when I saw the price point before I played the game, and I was like, oh, cool! It must be like a really good, like
substantial and significant game.
Yeah, like a really substantial reimagining of Crazy Taxi, which is exactly what I've wanted for years. And it's just sort of like, not that.
It's very thin. It's very like, I could imagine this coming out and on the PS3 around the start of like the PlayStation Network games and just be like, oh well, we obviously can't get the Crazy Taxi rights, so let's just make an approximation of it. It's very out of time. let me take one more run at the arcade mode. Disappointing all around. There's not really much more to say apart from that. It's like, also, Vinny and Cleo, there's just nothing. There's a couple of cars you can get.
I unlocked a couple of the cars and they're like, whatever. It basically just adds like something you can do for a modicum of replayability because the game itself is not that entertaining to replay.
No. Right, let's see how I get on here.
What's weird about it is that I can't even like I know like when we were chatting about it, I was like, God, I'm raging, I'm fuming at this game, but like you can clearly tell that it's made with like a love for the actual game and they've tried to capture it, and I can't be like mad at the developers that have tried to get
someone
it right.
Has to.
Yeah.
But it's just that, oh, for fuck's sake.
Do you think
also,
this kind
if
of...
if you hold L2 and R2 you get a boost, so that's why I'm boosting miles away from
you
the intended targets.
Do you think this kind of game can work like as a modern kind of trope? Or do you think that the crazy taxi thing should be kind of left in the past?
It's weird, it's a bit like when they did Dangerous Driving and like the kind of the ex-Burnout guys tried to do like a crash mode in all but name. It feels like all of those things should really be like wrapped into one. I'm gonna fail this. Wrapped into one game because the mode or the game itself doesn't feel like substantial enough.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they were going to do if they like say Sega actually decides that they want to do Crazy Taxi or even just re-release that version that's on PS3 and Xbox 360. Like that was like a tenner when it came out, and that was like fair. Like, but it completely boggles my mind how much money they want for this, considering it is so kind of lackluster and thin in content. Like it's literally there's no like not that story mode would be like appropriate or anything, but there's no like progression, no real character progression, and yeah, it's just lackluster.
Yeah, and not even in like, it's not like you know when we played Werewolf when it was quite obviously just bad in its design and kind of like stuck in the past. This is clearly like I don't think that the game looks bad. Like it plays very nicely and it's clearly done in a style that matches with what is popular and what is selling right now, but yeah, it just doesn't have the personality of the original thing. As much as you can try and redraw it, you can't recreate the energy of it.
Yeah. I mean, the cars and stuff look nice, but I think the actual passenger models look a bit creepy. Like they don't have any facial features. They just kind of have black dots for eyes. And the arrow usually works pretty well. I was literally about to say, here, fair enough, the arrow is a good way to not get lost, but then when I was driving in a straight line to that green box, it was pointing the other way, so...
Yeah, I'm not really sure how the arrow works, because it's a little bit weird on the Switch version, and it just kind of like... I think it tries to follow roads rather than a direction, and it tries to take you down the road, which is kind of against the point when you're like... If you're playing the pro mode, you're going to take shortcuts, you're going to jump over things. So it doesn't really make sense for it to do that. Yeah,
well, that'll do for Taxi Chaos. Review on the site imminently, Danny. I'm looking forward to reading your extended stan for Crazy Taxi. But until then, thanks, Danny.
Indeed, cheers, John.
Support for Overlode is provided by our incredible patrons. To support us and receive access to perks and exclusives such as Patreon-only video series, check out patreon.com/overload or click the link in the description. Thank you.